Welcome to Media Matters. This is a program today about youth and media in Montana, and I've asked some folks to come and talk to us about the different areas that they work in media arts, media literacy, and public access television. My name is Mary Canty. I've had the opportunity in the last year to work as the media artist in the schools in Missoula County Public Schools, and also to do some work at Two Eagle River School on the Flathead Indian Reservation. With me today, I have some guests. I have Sean O'Brien, who's a film studies professor at the University of Montana and is also on the MCAT Board of Directors. Rachel Lekumsky, who is a graduate of Big Sky High School, who also contributed substantially to the media arts program over the last few years. And Gwen Hoppy, who's also on the MCAT Board of Directors and is also a major contributor to the media arts program. She was a media artist in the schools many, many years ago and is now an art teacher at Big Sky High School. So welcome and thank you for coming. And as I explained to you earlier, we just want to take a little while here to take a look at some of the work that the kids have done in this last year, but also to see if we can tie together through a discussion just these what seem like really varied pursuits. The pursuit of media literacy, what is that? Which is kind of a buzzword these days. Media arts, what is that? What does that really include? And then, you know, why we're really here at MCAT. What is the role of MCAT in this whole kind of community and regional discussion? So I thought we'd start just talking to Rachel a little bit. We'll start with one of the students who has been involved. And if I asked you, what is media arts, what would you say at this point?
I would probably say media arts to me is all about like telling a story. I mean, you can change everything. It's different, and you can explore everything. I mean, sometimes I could take out a video camera and just like film the clouds, and you find like really different things outside and inside. Interviewing people is just really fun, and it makes you explore your options more.
And tell me a little bit about the work you've done.
The work I've done, I started this program at Big Sky 3 years ago called Film Study, and they used to have an installation here at MCAT, which uses art and video together, which was really fascinating to me at the beginning. And I got the chance to set it up and film stuff and get into it more. And then the next year, I got to set up the whole thing all by myself with Susan, who used to work here. And it was just fascinated me. So I thought maybe I can maybe in the future do something with media arts as a career.
Was there a particular part of it that was interesting to you?
Just that everything's different, and like when you get a good crew together, you like look back at your work and just you're fascinated. You know, I did this. You know, this is, you know.
I would have that reflection in working with you too, is that you seem to like a lot of different parts of it. That you like putting
either
in interviews
working behind a camera or doing sound, or just it makes you look at things differently. Like before I was like, television, it's so easy, you know, look at them, you know, they make all this money just by doing nothing. But really once you get behind the scenes, you're just like, oh, this is hard work, you know, you really got to know what you're doing. And it's just every day I do something different, and that's what I like about it.
Tell us about the approach you took with the first piece we're going to look at here on Veterans Day. What interested you?
What interests me about my piece is that the men that I talked to, they didn't know that they're going to be videotaped. So I thought, well, okay, maybe they won't do it because they're going to be videotaped. But just setting up and trying to figure out different, when you shoot someone, you have to shoot them in an angle. And so when we shot them, it was just a very good day, and you can't count on weather. So you and I decided to shoot it outside, and it just we put it together, and it just turned out really nice.
And you did this for your senior project for
Yes.
Big Sky, which is one area that's been very active in the whole media arts program in the schools, is now the schools require the seniors to do projects. And so we have some film students, we'll take a look at this in a little while, who are going to revisit their video pieces. So they started their video pieces as juniors this year, took a look at it and said, yeah, it's worthy of coming back to, or they wanted to move on to something else. But the pieces, there were a couple of kids who had put so much time into their scripts and into their ideas that it seemed like as a group, as a class activity, we could go back and give them the support system to do it the way that they wanted to do it. So the senior projects are kind of leading us onto some different things. So if we can, Mr. Joel Baird, who's in the back, and Miss Tracy Moore, who's producing for us today, if we could take a look at clip 1, which is the Veterans Day piece that Rachel produced.
I think they were more political prisoners, like French underground and that, than they were Jewish locals. And I still shudder when I think of that. Then ended up down in Austria at the end of the war. And one of the things that I still can't get over, I left when my daughter was 5 days old, and I didn't see her again until she was 2.5. Missed all of that growing up period, you know, and can never replace that, but it took a while to get acquainted with her too. My wife pushed her out on the porch, and she came up to me and looked up at me and said, "Hi, Daddy," and then she scooted for her mother's skirts. She wondered who I was.
I started out in the World War II flying fighters over in Europe. I flew 70 missions in a P-38 fighter in Europe. And then I came back and I was in the Korean War, the Vietnam War. And I hope that's enough of them, really. There are a lot of memorable experiences when I flew back to a safe base on one engine. But I flew out of England in 1944, the first part of 44, until D-Day, and then we flew over out of little airstrips in France, on up through France into Germany, until the first part of 1945. And we strafed, we dive bombed, we dropped napalm, and we had the greatest fighter, I think, in the world to do the job that we did.
Armistice Day came about as the end of World War I, and when the armistice was signed, and thank goodness for the end of that terrible war.
Armistice Day is the day that we praise the Lord that we no longer have any wars, and that we won't have any wars in the future. But it's a day we celebrate that all wars have come to an end.
I'm not quite sure how that was, but of course, Armistice Day really was as a result of World War I, so people thought of that as an honor day for that war. Then when we became involved in wars.
Rachel, tell me about that piece. What do you think about that in the end? How did it turn out?
I thought that piece turned out excellent. I was so proud of that piece because all the pieces that I've done, I've never felt as pleased. But in the gentlemen that I used, they are fascinated to do it. They're glad to do it. And I got both those men to come back to Big Sky to talk to classes again, because they kind of quit talking because it got too emotional for them. So our senior projects had to do something where it reached the public in a certain way, and I thought my project did that, because it just made other kids that went to my my project, came to it and they told me that, you know, I'm going to go to these services because it just got them involved and said, hey, we really should take a step and look at Veterans Day and honor people for what they've done. And I learned so much through my project, and I was so pleased to do it.
One thing, that's a neat tie-in for public access too. I just think that sometimes we get really involved in making television shows, which is a fairly intense effort, but then it's really neat when they are useful beyond MCAT. They're useful in the schools, they're useful to the community. Rachel also invited both these fellows back for her Big Sky High School presentation. So it's like, it becomes kind of a bridge, I think, for people, or it can when it's working well.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about the only show on MCAT.
Oh,
Take a look at that.
that
That's
show.
A whole different, yeah. That's a whole different thing.
This show was just smashed together in just one day. I mean, you called us up and said, hey, you know, we have some time on the TV. Can you guys come and help just put together something and do it? So it was just a wing on our part to get it done. And it was hardly any scripts. I'd ask the boys, you know, okay, are you ready for tonight? And they'd be like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. So they come and they have no clue what they're doing. So they just kind of stare at the television going, okay, what do we say? But we did it, 8 times? We showed the show about 8 times and got great reviews back. It was a pain in the butt to film because the boys would just jump up all of a sudden and, you know, do something, you know, on the move. You know, they'd stand up and do a rap sing. So it was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was so much fun.
Okay, let's take a look at that. This is the only show on MCAT, and it's live. It was produced live, call-in. Nick Karras and Matt Gore hosted it with a crew of high school kids.
Back on.
Yo, man.
All right, hey, thanks for calling over. See you later. Hello.
Hi, I'm Dougie.
How you doing, Dougie?
Dougie asked if I'd come back on.
Is your last name Fresh? Because that would be really cool if it was.
No, it's not.
Wow.
Oh, it would be.
What-
I have a pirate friend named Dougie,
My
actually.
last name is Wisniewski.
Dougie Luzniewski.
Dougie Wozniewski.
Wozniewski.
What's
I
your...
want to ask the pirate a question.
That's me.
She's a fake pirate.
I'm a
Keep
real
that in mind.
pirate.
No, you're not.
I'm a real
Tell
pirate.
the truth.
I have a question for her.
Okay, what's that?
My grandpappy was related to Captain Ahab. And
real?
I want to know if she knows Captain Ahab.
How about that? You know, Captain Ahab is a good friend of mine.
All right, see you later. Hello, welcome to the show.
Matt, Nick.
Yo,
What's up?
yo, I'm Afro Andy, but yeah, you can call me whatever you want, man, because I get down.
Okay.
What's
Okay,
up?
here's the deal.
You got something, yeah?
I got a proposition for you guys.
A proper what?
Proposition.
Oh, you mean a hookup?
Okay.
A hookup, yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Okay, here's the deal.
What's that?
Okay, where am I calling from right now? Look now. Look now.
What town?
No.
Butte.
First phone line. Who's called you guys like 80 times tonight? Sigma Nu, correct?
Yes.
Sigma Nu.
Okay, I have a proposition. I want to be a guest on your show next week.
Wow.
Possibly. Stay on the line. Call in after the show. We'll talk to you, okay?
Okay.
If what?
Thank you.
It's a yes or a no, so when do I call
We
back?
can't tell right
Call
now.
back in like 10 minutes.
We have to talk to the producers because
In
they're
like
the...
10 minutes?
Thank you. Yes, 10 minutes.
I'm going to call back in 10 minutes.
All right. Hey, sorry, man. The man is just, you know, the man is telling us what to do. So
The
we
man
have to...
always tells me what to do.
Recorded live.
Oh, we're recorded live today, just so you know.
430.
Hey, man.
4301.
I'm going to go back to sleep behind Magic Johnson. That's where I'm
All right, so, see ya. Hello,
We're closing.
welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm concerned. I'm calling from Pirates R Us from Wichita, Kansas.
Really?
Yes,
That's where I'm
I'm
from.
wondering where you found this imposter.
I'm from
I
Wichita.
know, she's an imposter. Get off the show. Get away.
I'm a pirate. I'm from Wichita.
I do not need to... Get off.
Oh, really?
Hey, Miss Pirate, I'm sorry we have to cut you off. We're almost out of time. Hello, everybody out in TV land. The next show is in 2 weeks. We're guessing.
We're pretty
So, check your local
Mind if I
listings.
take this?
Call MCAT if you want to find out
Right.
where the only show on MCAT is on again.
It's a doggy dog world.
That was a show that was produced here in the MCAT studio, a live call-in show. Live TV has a whole different flavor than videotape production, planned production. Give me an anecdote, Rachel. What was a fun time on that show?
Probably the best time I've ever had was when either Sigma Nu would call. We get these guys calling all the time. And these are college guys watching public television. Come on, they have no time, just to do something else but watch the show. So they call, and we'd always flash on the television, PG, TV, don't swear, don't do anything. Every time they call, they would swear. And it was just so funny because you'd ask them not to. They're like, oh, we're sorry, but they called back again so many times. I think they're the most popular guys that walk the earth. So one time they came on the show too, which, we were so scared, the people behind the scenes, because we're like, oh my God, we can't do this. We can't put these guys on. Just because when they call, they swear. So they came on, but they're good. They're so good. And that was the best show we've ever had, because people would call in and ask questions, and the boys really knew what they were talking about. So it was just so funny. Everyone behind the scenes were like this the whole night. Yeah. But it was a good show.
It was a good show. If you think about it, and I'll open this up to all of us here, what direction in your mind should the media arts program go? I mean, you've had a lot of different flavors of it. Gwen, you've kind of participated, you kind of know some of the things she's talking about. That makes sense to you. If you, from a student's perspective, is there something that could be changed or added that makes sense?
Well, I would start at a younger age, like freshman age, or maybe junior high, maybe, to get these kids involved, because this is something that you can take on anywhere you want. And if I would have started at a younger age, I would, be a little higher up than I am now, but I would know more, and I could go find all the colleges I wanted to go to this, to become a producer somewhere. I just think it's a fascinating thing, and anyone can do something with it in their lives, and it just changed my life.
How about you, Gwen? I didn't know she was going to say all this
Well,
great stuff.
I guess ours was start younger, because you can go so far with it, and I suppose some students are just getting it when they're seniors. It's like, this is great, why don't we do this more, and then they're off. And it's nice that the schools have it set up so it's relatively easy access, especially if you're in that class, or there's MCAT, they can come down and have access to this. It's not so easy otherwise, to create something and put it on the air. So I think that's good to start early. And I think more, and I really like that they have an artist in the school like you to go out and be technical and artistic help, because if there's just a teacher, it's a lot to handle, So that's really good. And
how do you tie it into your arts class? That's one of the questions I had for you is, how do you use it as a teacher?
Well, I did a project with you, like a content-based project where we focused on, I think the concept was depth. How do you create depth? Because we were doing that in the art class with shading and, looking at things like that historically. So that was seeing the art in television or in film, what's possible there, how does it relate to what we're doing in flat art. So I try to use it to expand a concept, and I think in that case the students did, they got in groups of anywhere from 3 to 5 and did a short piece. They were a little more abstract. It wasn't like a real, typical narrative structure. It was, they had fun experimenting. They loved it. And then I had some students during independent study time of the class choose to do video. And that was just their way of exploring whatever it is they wanted to explore. I used the video camera a little bit to show examples of things, or to allow, to look in close at something, anywhere from still life to drawing a person. But I don't use it enough at this point.
I was going to ask you, though, that was kind of answer to one of my questions, is there art and television? I mean, is there a way to combine those two subject areas? Because we don't usually think of television of having anything to do with art.
Oh,
You know?
I got into television because it was fast art. There weren't any dirty brushes or anything like that, but I still saw it the same. For me, my fascination is with, you know, the lighting, the form, the movement, and what's going on behind that. Well, that's secondary, but it's kind of the fascination with the visual image. There's a lot of art also, it's very expressive, and you know, there's some basic confines, and then it's how you work within that. So.
One of the things I've loved this year that we haven't had before, that's an innovation that students after you will have, is now we have soundtrack development in the editing systems. And that is such an amazing, you can get kids involved who will respond to that. I mean, that's what's neat about it. Some kids are like, oh, I like the visuals, oh, I like the written word. And some kids go, oh, I like the music and the sound effects, and you can set them on that. So I really like, sometimes I tell teachers, and it's such a strange thought, but what we're really teaching is teamwork. You know, what we're really teaching is how to, what you mentioned originally, how to tell a story together, you know? And because we have different people kind of authoring it, it always is a live beast. It's alive. It's always changing, you know, until you finally say, okay, it's really done. It's not really done until that very moment. So I like that.
I think the great thing about production is you cannot do it yourself. You have to work with people. You have to learn how to work with people. And I always tell my class it's really a test of character. You know?
Tell us about your class. What do you teach and how?
Well, I have taught a number of production classes at the university. And I've also just got done with the Schwanke Institute, which is a high school, which is a college course designed for high school kids that the university holds each summer. And I tell them at the beginning that this really is a test of character because you do work together. You have to learn to work, you know, cooperatively, or this is going to be a horrible experience. And it's the truth. My production experiences have either been the best of times or the worst of times. And if you learn how to work together, you know, it's an absolute blast. And if you don't, it can be miserable. So they really do learn all sorts of social skills. You know.
And creative skills, like
and
how to combine their creative interests, which I think is really interesting, because usually it really evolves that as I just see the process unfold each and every time, that one kid all of a sudden just, you see the light bulb, you know, or the heart or whatever it is, go, oh, got it. That's my thing. I'm doing that, you know. That's what I'm going to contribute to this. When you teach film studies, I mean, part of my history with film studies is that it's in part you're doing critique, pretty heavy critique of existing films. What is important, and we're leading on to another clip of watching a student assess her own work or introduce her own work and how she got started on doing a video production from a written piece. But in your eyes, what's important about analysis, or why is critique an important part of the production process?
Well, I think it's important for two main reasons. And first of all, like it or not, and some days I like it and a lot of days I don't, you know, electronic media is the media of the day. And it's where people, and particularly young people, are getting their images of the world. So, again, whether we like it or not, that's what's out there. We have to deal with it. We have to make sure that they can at least assess what's coming in somewhat critically. Secondly, I think media programs are really important because they give people an opportunity to explore the media itself. So some people are arguing, like Jerry Mander, for example, that there's a problem with the media itself. It's not the content, it's the form itself. And so what's interesting about media programs is that a lot of them are critical of media. So it's not simply that when you have a media program, you are pushing media. You can be critiquing media. You can be pointing to alternatives to media. And again, since it's out there, I think we have to be really very, very informed about the content as well as the form itself.
Which kind of brings us to that media literacy, media arts discussion, which I want to have for a few minutes, because there's such a buzz about that these days. What's media literacy? What's media arts? And I think we'll come back to that. I think we'll show, before we move on from critique and process a little bit, because I want to show Kristen Duncan's piece from Hellgate High School film class. And she's just introducing her senior project piece called The Window. And it is one of the pieces. She's a junior this year. We'll probably be returning to it next year, because you'll see that the whole process for her is evolving. So let's take a look at her own introduction to her own video piece.
And he had us write these monologues with the devil, and I don't know, I think that's probably the best thing that I've ever written. I'm not really proud of too many of my homework assignments, but that one turned out really well. And he was like, well, that'd be great to perform. And so I was kind of thinking about that and decided to add in another character, and just kind of took bits and pieces from like what the original character had said and kind of joined them together. And I knew who I wanted my actors to be, one of which was Tobin, that came in and spoke to us the other day. And the only problem with that was he was in college in Oregon, and so couldn't be here to start earlier. So we did the shooting. I think it took us a total of 7 hours. And then editing, I think I put in like 9 hours. The first 3 were just basically wasted because I didn't know what I was doing. And so it was kind of done at the last minute, and we didn't have a lot of time to really worry about like the little things. So the sound is kind of off in some of these scenes, and the lighting isn't so hot, but I don't know. I'm proud of it. It's my baby. So, yeah, and I was going to do outtakes, but like I said, time was kind of an issue.
Let me have your monologues as the devil?
Yeah, like, it was like the devil talking to you, or like you talking to the devil, or either. Something to that extent. And so, I don't know. This was just kind of one of those things, like it's kind of deep, and so we didn't want you to get bored with it, so there's like a lot of little things that we have going on in it, like they changed scenes.
Mind if I sit here?
Go for it.
What you working on?
Homework? Welcome back. We just took a look at a piece, the introduction to a piece by Kristen Duncan. She's a junior at Hellgate High School. For her senior project next year, she's considering coming back to the same video piece, reworking it, and having us help her as a crew, so she improves her sound quality and her picture quality a little bit. She's very pleased with the story that she wrote in English class and decided to take that one step further and turn it into a video piece. And it's a pretty interesting piece. She also got help from a former high school student, Hellgate High School student, who came and essentially was her producer. So it kind of lapped a generation there. He was a fellow who was involved years ago with MCAT and has now come back after graduating from college and helped her out, which was really nice. So, but it ties into what we were just talking about with Sean O'Brien about the idea of critiquing both how do you show the world your piece and how the world responds to your piece. And I also want to talk a little bit, to take it one step further, about the connection between media arts and media literacy, because this work that Kristen's working on is pretty much a media arts piece. In other words, she's taking it from the creative angle. She is concerned about her lighting, her sound, primarily her story that she's trying to tell. What is in contrast to a project like that, what is media literacy, and how is that starting, media education starting to go along with production? Gwen, I'll ask you, because you just got back from a conference.
I know, and I should know. Well, it's kind of how you want to label things. In some ways, media literacy can include that media arts business. In fact, it's an essential component of really understanding media, understanding the media, the mass media, talking about your own, is to make something, to have control of those, the tools, the techniques, all those things. I don't know if you're asking this, but I think it's really essential to have both parts of it, to create and also to take a look at what's been out there, how do they do it, and what does this mean, who's producing it. So, there's a lot of different definitions for media literacy, and kind of each group I talk to has a few different things they want you to cover in that. It's like, and different focuses. I think it's like in this book, this is a little tangent, but 4 principles of media literacy. Principle 1, media construct reality. So in a program would help students understand how that happens, and when they make their own, they know that they're creating a new reality. Like the guys, those people on that, not the last show on MCAT, the only show on MCAT. They're doing a talk show, and maybe they've seen the Jerry Stringer show and how they do it, and so they're constructing their own reality. Principle 2, media use identifiable techniques. So part of media literacy was learning how they do that, cuts, dissolves, what does that mean? Principle 3, media are businesses with commercial interests. And I think that's what a lot of programs like to focus on, is like, what are they trying to get me to buy? Is it the idea that McDonald's is the best place to have a hamburger, or are they, what is it that they're trying to get me to buy, or who are they? And principle 4, media present ideologies and value messages. So I think part of it, media education, would be to help the student understand the various levels, of values inherent in there. What are they saying? That it's, thin is best, those sort of things. So I'm not sure, I probably diverged, but.
Well, I think one area that's confusing to the public, and maybe to public educators too, and public access people too, is, it seems like the big national question is, how do you teach this? And I have to say that one angle, coming from the media arts angle, one of the reasons that I held on to it so tightly is because I think art inspires. I really do. Whether, as you've mentioned before, it's color or form or depth, or maybe it's music and soundtrack. But art goes. It's multi-sensory experience, and I struggle with media literacy myself sometimes, because I think it turns that experience, or tries to, into a more intellectual exercise, which I have no problem with. I love the idea of bringing the intellect to the discussion. It's just I don't think it should be compartmentalized so that that is the primary discussion. I think that loses, we lose people in that discussion then. That's my problem. I think we reach out to folks like both you guys who are arts-oriented people, and you might not respond on that level. You might not be able to undertake it as an intellectual exercise. That may not be your thing at all. So I just kind of wonder how we're evolving. I guess I'm throwing that out there. How can we put these things together for people to have a great experience?
Well, the media courses that I've taught, just the theory courses, have really almost taught themselves, simply because people are already tuned in. And what I find that media theory can do for you is really just make explicit what you understand implicitly. So young people today are really sophisticated about the media. When they come to class, they might not have the terminology, they might not have the concepts, but they certainly have the analysis. And I think what media theory can do is just give them the language to speak about it, and it sort of deepens the analysis. But they're already in the know. They just need to learn how to talk about it a little bit better, I think.
So it's a language question.
Yeah, I think it's a language question.
Yeah.
I think
So that's
that the
interesting.
skills are already there, and I find that I'm amazed at what they really already know.
That's a really good point. So that we're just providing a structure to something that's already existing.
Yeah.
Now, when you teach, do you teach both the art form and the analysis? I mean, are you teaching theory and taking a look at films, is what I'm saying, and the creative impulse?
My classes, usually you only have time to do theory or practice. There's a few classes when I've done both, and it's really hectic. But ideally, I like people to have the theory class before they take the practical class. It really informs them. And of course, taking the practical class and taking the theory class also informs that, because when you know firsthand what goes into a film, you're a lot more critical of it. So it would be great to run a 2-semester class, where you do the theory and then you do the practical.
So, and how come this becomes part of the discussion of media violence? Because that's how the three of us have worked together this year. We had that contact, just to fill you in, Rachel, Gwen and Sean and I had a chance to work together up at Two Eagle River School this year. And the emphasis there was looking at images of media violence and kind of alternative endings to some of those stories, how to develop other ideas. And also for kids to take a look at what they're seeing, much along the lines of what Gwen just mentioned, the principles, how to identify, what is the real message here, Is it a good message, is it a bad message, what is it? Because I'm just finding in my own work this last year that I had a chance to work with the Hellgate film class very closely in the spring, and more so, we started to have that discussion about media violence, because kids were bringing in programs that they had produced that had either guns or rape images or, things that I think they've been so exposed to over and over that it seems like, of course, if you're going to tell a media story, it should have these things. I mean, I really think that's the, and so now, as far as media arts go, I'm now starting to move, at least in part, into that, the idea of violent images. So I don't know if you have a reaction to that. I know you did a great job teaching that. Maybe you could explain that, what you did in trying to look at that.
Yeah, well, I showed the class the film American History X, which is an extremely violent film, and the point I was making is that I think we can't just have a knee-jerk reaction against violent films. For one thing, there is violence in the world, and therefore I think it should be portrayed. I think we have to be careful with our portrayal of it. And I pointed to American History X as an example of a film that was extremely violent and just as powerfully nonviolent in its message. And so, I think, again, we can't just say, well, this film is violent, therefore it's advocating violence. A lot of times, violent films are not, and they can be much more powerfully anti-violent than even non-violent films. So that was the particular point I was making up at Two Eagle School.
Yeah, that was it was very powerful, It was a very physical
Yes.
day. Because I think the violent images, especially in a closed room where everybody's watching the movie together, really has a very visceral reaction. People are right there with it.
Right, and the appropriate visceral reaction, which is, it was repulsive, and I think people were repulsed by it, and it wasn't a celebration of violence. But it was, I think, a fairly accurate depiction of what some people's lives are like. And it moves you away from that way of life, I think, rather than towards it.
That's what I really like about media, is because you can film something through your eyes, see how you can see it, and no one, you really can't do that with a still camera, because it's still, it doesn't move. But that's what I just love, people see from your point of view. And when the violence on television these days is just, it doesn't happen every day. So that's why documentaries and stuff are really important to have in media, because it tells the truth basically about maybe for India, like India for example, they have people dying there every day. And if you watch like a History Channel or something like that, you can see, this is the truth, where like American movies these days just kind of stretch it just a little more to the limit to get younger people's attention towards it. and so it kind of brings them into like the violent mood. So it's amazing how some media goes the other way.
Yeah, and I think that's precisely what was happening in American History X. We were seeing the violence from this person's perspective. We understood how he got into it, and we understood how he got out of it. But it was really through his eyes, and I think that's what made it effective.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the students, like even in that class, had seen the movie. They just hadn't probably talked about it. And I think that makes the big difference, is to be able to put it out there and look at it.
Right.
That turned into a little bit of a free speech issue. I mean, not really, but we did have some of that discussion, you know, what's appropriate for children or students to see. Should it have been edited more, edited less? And I think that really ties us, in some ways, brings us all the way back to MCAT, which is really the home base of all this activity, because one of the first discussions I had with the school board as a whole, with the superintendent, when we started the media arts program, which was what are the parameters for this free speech issues in the media arts programs for high school students? And basically they told me to follow the guidelines of the student newspapers, that those were kind of considered the test cases for public access. But in almost every class I've ever been in, and I don't know in your case, you've had this experience, but we've ended up in that discussion. You know, is this, you know, you do realize this is an interactive medium, that this story is going out to your community, and is this the story you want to tell? And you know, I've had video pieces come back, very rarely, but people are, you know, really slandering somebody or libeling somebody or really taking a pot shot at somebody. And so it's so, again, just like with media arts and media literacy, I mean, another part of the discussion that I feel like we keep having more and more of is the free speech discussion. And what are the rights of youth to express themselves? And I don't know, have you guys had any experience with that or any feedback on that? Or is it appropriate for MCAT, a place like MCAT, to be involved in media arts and media literacy discussions from your perspective?
Oh, it's very appropriate, you know, and I think not many people are doing it. Somebody's got to do it. But I wonder, too, sometimes that line between what is free speech, not just what free speech is, but if you're in school, it's under a school program, you're under 18, how much can you be censored? And I have a problem with it sometimes, because sometimes it's kind of a gray zone. And
you think kids are censored in general? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, I think they want to push the limit to find out, well, don't I have free speech? Can I, whatever? Well, yes, but, and sometimes I say, well, that sounds like a program that you should produce on your own down at MCAT, get your parents to sign for that, take it from there. But in a school district, there's some other ramifications there. So
okay, that's a
but
good
I have problems
point.
with it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Any feedback? Any ideas?
Well,
do you run into that?
Well, not at the
with
university,
adults,
because I work with students who are generally over 18. When I teach theory to my Schwanke group, these people are high school kids, and it is a college course, and so I'm a little bit sensitive that they're a few years younger than college kids, but I pretty much proceed as if they were college kids, being a little more sensitive, I suppose.
Rachel, what do you think?
I think that what I always ran into was the R-rated movies. Like, some of the best movies are R-rated, but like Schindler's List, we can't watch that in high school, but I mean, it's one of the best movies out there that really shows the history of what people really did go through. I think that, yes, it should be censored just a little, because we don't want to promote violence, you know, that's like the last thing we want to do. But we also want to promote someone's, like, their personal feelings and what they see and what their actions towards things. But towards, like, I do believe that they should allow some R-rated movies to be shown in schools, because it shows just what really goes on in our world, you know. But some kids don't watch them because they are R-rated. But other than that.
Okay, I'm going to tie this to the next clip we're going to take a look at, which is from the District Alternative Learning Center. And what was interesting to me, the District Alternative Learning Center provides another option to Missoula County Public School students who are struggling in the larger, more mainstream schools. And there's always a waiting list to get into what's known as the DALC program. And what we did is we did 2 different video projects as a group. I was allowed to pull 7 students out, the same 7 students weekly. I had 2 groups of 7. And we did a series of fiction pieces which the kids wrote, or we took their existing poetry and we did video clips to that. And another project we had, because we had no room, one of the issues, of course, is by moving the media arts program into the schools, we don't have MCAT in each school to work with. So we had a closet. We were given a closet, and what are the parameters of a project in a closet? And so these kids, several of them have experienced different levels of violence in their lives and different levels of real serious, struggles. And so the program we ended up doing, it was right around the holidays, is Happy Holidays from DALC. And it's an interview piece where the kids interviews each other in this closet about the emotional issues around the holidays. So we'll take a look at that and then come back.
We're talking about the holidays.
Tell me what you think.
About the holidays? They're stressful. Spend a lot of money. The only happy part about the holidays is Christmas vacation for all the kids, because they get time off from school.
It's time to go shopping, eat out, eat lots of food, get all decked out, get presents. That's one of the best things. I love getting presents. Oh, I want some CDs, Toby Keith. How Do You Like Me Now? Gotta have the CD. I got to. I want Aaron Keaton's People Like Us CD for Kiss This, because that's exactly what I want to tell my ex-boyfriend. Kiss this. And I don't mean on my rose red lips.
Could you imagine if you were those kids? Growing up and, getting a teddy bear, if you're lucky, or, a pair of used jeans or something, could you even imagine, we're spoiled. We get mad if we don't get, loads. Oh my God, I got 11 presents. Last year I got 15, Mom. What is going on? And that's how we all are. And we just look and, they're just, it's the whole world just to get a teddy bear.
Christmas, I'm going to eat ham, and I'm going to eat, all kinds of stuff, and cranberry and cheesecake, and I'm going to eat as much as I can.
I like Christmas because you get all the presents. New Year's I like just because it's New Year. I don't know.
And do you think people are happy in general this time of year?
Yeah, definitely.
What are they happy about?
Getting presents.
No, I think everybody pretends to be happy. They're really unhappy.
And
I think it's a big fake, oh, hi, how are you? I hate you. Anyways, happy Christmas or whatever. It's dumb.
That's true.
I don't know, it's just stressful. You don't know what to get anybody. You get somebody something and they already have it, so you have to take it back and get something else.
Thanks for taking a look at that with us. That was produced by the District Alternative Learning Center high school kids, and I hope to go back in the fall. And one of the things I've noticed is that kids who sometimes aren't sure about what they want to pursue in high school find media arts very but kind of a spontaneous act in their lives that they really enjoy and really motivate them to do some interesting work. I know we had a student who was a resident of a group home a year ago, and the only work she did for the high school, the main public high school, was a video piece, and it was a beautiful video piece that she did, and it was like her thing that she really focused on for that 1 year of school. So I'm really pleased. I think that's one of the most exciting parts of the program is I will even have some people say to me, oh, you know, Joe doesn't really, you know, he's probably not going to really engage very much, and boom, you know, Joe's right there. Joe's, whoa, you know, I'm running to keep up with Joe in the end. I just love that. I just think that's really exciting. So last but not least, we just have a few minutes here, and then we'll sign off, and of course the discussion can go on for years. But what is, this has led to, the Media Arts program led to the opportunity to apply for a Department of Education grant. Gwen, do you want to tell us what is the Making Connections project, and how does that tie into all this?
Well, it's a grant that was given out by the Department of Education and advised by National Endowment for the Arts, so it's a real mix in there. And the purpose of this grant was to do something about the problems with kids out there, and it's going to go through media literacy and the media arts. Mary and I wrote this grant last summer, and it started, and the grant involves bringing media artists into Two Eagles so that they can work directly with the students, bringing in equipment, training some teachers, and trying to get some of the analysis in there too. It's like Sean was kind of that component of it. And it was to help the students become producers of media, and to experiment with it, and to find their voice in it, and also to take a look at what's out there. These students, you know, they go to the alternative. It's an alternative school. It's run by the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes, and a lot of these students have left the public schools for different reasons, and so a lot of them are, you know, have different challenges of, you know, academic or whatever. So, and I think this has been a great way for a lot of the students to be creative and to serve their community too, because they make programs that are of significance to the community, and it starts conversations. They can be seen as creative artists and in a lot of different ways. So that's, and we're going to be doing this next year, and who knows how long after that. So.
We're just not sure how much longer it'll go.
Yeah.
It's one of those federal projects, but it has been really neat. It really came out of a lot of, not just this particular media arts residency, but just a whole, I think, a Western Montana sensibility that started to develop. And just an idea, maybe we can work together on this. I mean, it's really been interesting, I think, to use one model to try it somewhere else and then revise it a little bit there and bring that model back here. It's just traveling. It's like the ideas are really active ideas right now. So let's take a look at that videotape. Gwen and I produced a 5-minute videotape for her to take to Austin, Texas, to a conference last week. And it'll be the last thing we look at, and then we'll come back and wrap it up.
And just this conference was from this organization called Association for Immediate Literate America, and they want America to be immediate literate, so that's their focus.
How are young people affected by TV and media?
By the violence that's on TV, it just an everyday type of thing on the TV, so the kids begin to think that there's nothing wrong with shooting somebody or using drugs. Or
So TV is kind of spoiled every kid. So that's where they learn all this drug and all this meanness that's coming from the big cities. And they try to mock all that stuff, try to be big honchos and stuff like that. So that's the reason why TV, I wouldn't have that in my house. I still don't.
This is a West Side gang. And then here, this is an East Side gang.
Okay. So that's actually a very good visual sort of symbol that, you know, you're able to see and that he's able to sort of pass on to you through the images. Right? And that's an interesting thing about the idea of who has access to what kinds of projects. I think the idea of if you're interested in working in a certain way in a certain area, we talked about it when we met earlier, is that one of the things you have to be is you have to really care about what you're interested in making pictures of. Right? If I give you an assignment to go out and photograph something that you're totally bored with, all right, your reaction is probably going to be you're going to bring back pictures that react or respond to that sort of thing. But if you can find something that really moves you in some way, that really has impact, that has a connection to experience in your life. Joseph's connection to all this stuff was that
I know I'd probably get in trouble for saying it, but the community's not dealing with the issue.
They feel they have no other way out of their problems, or there isn't enough help, or they have no one to talk to.
And also girls and boys do it different. Girls in general, and believe me, this is very generalized, because every individual is unique. But girls in general really put a lot of thought into the process and the act, and they go through most of the stages of giving things away, of cutting their ties, of saying goodbye to the important people in their lives.
All right, we're at bison range. You know, oh, the deers are gone. We don't see any animals right now, but we'll find them.
Oh yeah, it's great. Keeps kids drug-free, alcohol-free. Keeps them doing something instead of sitting around or getting in trouble. Yeah.
Keeps kids in school, out of trouble. Something to do after school instead of just going out and doing drugs or something.
Once they get into it, even out of high school, they still attending basketball
tournaments and stuff.
Okay.
Julie, Joseph, Julie, Joseph, Julie, Joseph, Julie, Joseph, Julie, Joseph.
Welcome back. Oops. I'm hearing the audio from that piece as well as speaking to you. We are going to wrap up the discussion. When I think about this last hour in our talks with each other, I think, what a year. What an incredible year. Just looking at all that work that was done by so many people, just dozens and dozens of people. Any final thoughts or comments for this afternoon?
Well, I just had one thing that I didn't get said, and I wanted to, and that is that I think one reason that production is so important is that is simply because we are inundated with media, and again, like it or not, it's the way it is, and I think it is. All the media is generating a passive population, particularly, passive young people. I mean, their minds are not as active. But when you teach them production, it's a way for them to interact with the media in a very active way, and it brings them to life in a way that simply watching media does not. So I think it's important for everyone to be producers of media as well as consumers of media. And I always say that, everybody should make a movie or a video. Everyone in their life should make at least one, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think 2, because the first one is so big.
Yeah, I know. You'd be like, I really did that.
Right.
Oh, I need some help. I just think that it's media is really important to have as a young adult because it makes you more aware of your what you can do. I mean, before I got involved with media, I was just kind of like a little freshman, like, I'm going to do what everybody else is interested in doing. Maybe, join the basketball team or do something. But once I got involved with media, it just changed my mind. I was like, I don't care what people think of this or what people think I should do. I'm going to do this because I want to do this. It makes you think of like a group instead of yourself, Like games are more of a one-on-one person. But media and producing things just makes you get involved in knowing that there's always someone that's going to back you up instead of just, I'm doing this on my own. But it's just a very good thing to get involved in, and I enjoy it. I love it.
I don't know if I can add more to all this except for I just want to thank Mary for kind of being the original stone thrown into the puddle, and it's really had this big ripple effect, for, what I do with the students at Two Eagle and at Big Sky, and you've got a lot of things going, and I know you've been doing it for, like, just the schools part of it, 1992 or 3 you wrote that grant, and things got going. I think a lot of students have been exposed in the community, and I think it's kind of helped media, this part, television, to become a tool for positive social things and not just, what's the word I'm looking for? Not just a passive thing. It's become part of our community and a tool. So, thanks, Mary.
Sure. Well, it's always been my pleasure. Truly, it comes from a place, just to echo what Rachel said, that's something I love. I think the whole combination of kids and media is really such a great experience for the most part. But I asked each of you here today in part because I admire your work so much. So honestly, it's as you said, we're in a pond now. Big or little fish, we may not be able to figure it out, but we're all in it together and we're doing the best we can. And I know we have this next year is just going to be incredible. Between all of the investment that the schools are making in new equipment right now, which has just blossomed absolutely. And MCAT's moving in, growing too, and expanding too. And so, and now with looking at bigger grants, possibly more funding, I just think we really have no idea of what the limits of this might be. And each of us will continue to have to probably really work pretty hard to see all of this come to fruition. But we couldn't do it without MCAT. I want to say special thanks to Joel Baird, Tracy Moore, Missoula Community Access Television Board of Directors, of which Gwen Hoppy and Sean O'Brien are a part, and all the people in the community who use MCAT and contribute whatever they can to make this a successful community dialogue about media. And special thanks, of course, to my guests, Rachel Lekumsky, Sean O'Brien, Gwen Hoppy, and to our Media Arts Program sponsors, who this year are MCAT, Missoula County Public Schools, and the Steele Reese Foundation. Thanks for joining us today. This is an ongoing dialogue, and we'll be talking to you again from Media Matters.